behind the Marina Bay Sands Hotel, familiar landmark. This leads us on to the East Coast Parkway, the ECP as it's abbreviated. You have to get used to that. If you want directions correctly here, you have to ECP connecting to the AYE on the KPE on the whatever it is, blah blah blah. And if you miss any of that, then you go the wrong way. This is a great bridge, Shears Bridge. Lovely view of the city skyline. So I'm out on my Harley Davidson again, partly to get some fresh air and change of scenery. I was feeling a bit sort of gloomy. November, coming towards the latter stages of November, and still no real sign that there's a full return to anything like normality here in Singapore. It's now 2 years since I saw my grown-up children in Melbourne, and I'm planning to get back to Australia in December for a short while. But you never know in these times. Singapore is 85% vaccinated. We'll go no higher. 15% either don't want to or can't get vaccinated, and now they're rolling out boosters, but yet the restrictions are still there. Travel restrictions, only allowed to meet one other person outside, 2 discreet visitors allowed to your household per day. I don't know what they mean by discreet. Does that mean you can have any number of indiscreet ones? Riding around on the Harley Davidson Heritage Classic is not a bad antidote for lockdown blues. It's not really lockdown. There is talk of the border between here and Malaysia reopening. Malaysia has actually done pretty well with vaccinations. I think up at well into the 80s, if not more. They've been pretty quick in terms of catch-up, unlike many Southeast Asian nations who seem to, in the media, portray that they've managed the pandemic quite well. I think that is, they must be joking. There you go, I've got the auto cruise on. I've learned how to use it. There's not many places that you can use it here, but especially when it's busy, it's a very handy control. It's not there on all Harley Davidsons, but this is a useful one. But I will keep it switched off because it's quite busy and need to vary the speed. This is the road to Changi Airport. We're going to Changi Beach. Why am I going to Changi? Well, I'm going to go and have a look at the Changi Beach Memorial and see if the Changi Museum and Chapel is open. It was the site of a prisoner of war camp during World War II, so I think there was something like 50 to 60,000 British and Australian and Indian and other nationalities prisoners of war there, held by the Japanese. Hi bro. Nice bike. Boxer twin. I like that style. And it looks like space from me. Not in the shade, but it'll do. Here we are, Changi Beach. That included 4 British prisoners of war, well, so I'm correct, 2 Australian and 2 British prisoners of war who attempted to escape the early days of captivity in 1942 and were summarily executed on this beach as well by firing squad. Massacre of up to 25,000 Chinese, some say more. Lee Kuan Yew thought it was more like 50 or 60,000 purges by the Japanese.
A finger to the sky. Is that a divine question or a divine answer? I don't know. If I had a paintbrush and a white pot of paint, I'd probably put WTF question mark along the base. But I don't, and I didn't.
So, moving stories by British and Australians who were captured and interned at Changi and other places. And I forgot to mention some of the local heroes here as well. Elizabeth Choy and her husband, who braved bringing supplies and equipment for things like making radios to the prisoners. Elizabeth Choy was under suspicion from the Japanese and was interned and interrogated for 190 odd days. Terrible, pretty grim. And then released. Brave lady, became a school teacher afterwards, and rightly highly revered in Singapore today. Homeward bound. modern prison and the modern airport. Well, I'm here at a very interesting part of the world called Adam Park. It came to my attention, a friend of mine used to live in one of these big houses, like the one behind me, and he was contacted by a guy from University of Glasgow called John Cooper, who was interested in military archaeology, and he wanted to look at this site more closely, so he inspected the garden with a metal detector, and they found a lot of military artifacts in this area. And as he sort of continued to explore it and doing sort of systematic surveys with a group of people, they found the story of these houses. 19 houses here, just off Adam Road, Farrow Road, in a sort of to the northwest of the city. And the 1st Battalion of Cambridges were ordered to defend this hill. It's a hill that runs slightly to the north, against the Japanese attack, February the 12th to 15th, 1942, and they did that for as long as they could, fighting between these houses. Japanese 41st Regiment stormed the hill here and took over some of the houses. The Cambridges fought and stood their ground, house to house. It was very close combat, lots of casualties on both sides, and then on the 15th of February they were ordered to lay down their arms and take the surrender, which had happened outside their control. But an interesting story. And then the men from here basically waited until they were rounded up by the Japanese and marched to Changi prison, which is where I've just been on the bike. That was a much more arduous march by foot, of course. It sets you thinking about what 80 years has brought. And it's a good sort of linkage to reflection from my point of view. Anyway, we'll ride on and tell you more about this. Of course, the war would have changed people, inevitable. Not many for the good, but forced to change. I think the only similarity, I guess, in that sense between then and now in terms of a pandemic and being isolated is the shared need to rely on your own resources to get by, especially this, dealing with a change, an event that is out of your control, not able to see family and loved ones, frustrating, and not being able to go anywhere. Obviously, Singapore pandemic much more pleasant than Singapore at the height of occupation, but the denial of being able to move freely and see loved ones is there. And I've learnt a lot about myself in that time. Looked to myself. I think I've come out of it stronger. So we'll see, but I think I have found inner strength in really having to I guess, get by on my own. Isolation, even in Singapore, away from friends for long periods of time, despite the communication. Yeah, it's been tough. Not as tough as being a prisoner of war, but not easy either. And we move on. I'm optimistic. I think I have grown in strength and feel like it's changed me. Hopefully for the better.
I've tried to tell you this 100 times.
You can do this.
Not getting better by lying there pretending to cry. You on repeat, you can see shit cause you have closed your eyes. You say you listen, but you're missing what it's all about. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. sign of growing up, you're growing old, your life keep passing. Rise up now. If you never fall, you don't change at all. Cry out now. Have you given up? I will never stop, yeah. Now if you break it, I can take it, I don't need a prize. Leave out the fact that I am up against 1,000 guys. My intuition efficient, cause I can't use my mind. Don't try to tell me